Hey guys, we are Mike and Leanna of the Dry Campers, and we travel the country in our RV installing solar and lithium on other RVs so that other RVers can live more
off the grid.
Yeah. Enjoy this wonderful, beautiful earth.
Country.
Whatever. They could go across these if they wanted.
Yeah.
So this week we have something a little bit different. We have done a previous video of something similar. So this week we're doing a 2020 Momentum 397TH. We are just doing, what you'll see is just the batteries and the electrical system basically, right?
Yeah.
There is no solar on it yet, but we'll just stay tuned and you'll understand why. This actually though is a reinstall of someone else's work. Basically, long story short, the client dropped it off with another installer. The installer had it for 4 months, still hadn't finished, and it didn't actually work anyway after the 4 months. So basically what happened was the client worked with some DIY people, got it kind of like
cobbled
like,
together to where it would at least work some.
Yeah. And then of course contacted Mike. Hey, can you hook me up and finish this out the correct way? He also, the other installer also didn't actually do what he wanted because he did want it behind the wall. He had mentioned to them and showed them the video of Getaway Couple, and he said, I want it to look like this. So if you're a fan of the Getaway Couple, you'll know that pretty much doesn't look anything like that. But, you know, whatever. You know, Mike is able to make things happen, and that's what he does. So stay tuned and check this one out.
Thanks for joining us.
It is a full body paint Grand Design Momentum 397TH. So something I'm pretty familiar with. So anyhow, we're gonna get on it.
Okay, here we have a electrical junction box that had to be redone by the customer. It wasn't right. The gauge wire was correct, but the flow of the wiring was not correct.
And then in the front bay,
here we have the 6 battery bank, which was not mounted down securely. All they were was strapped together. The interconnecting wiring was a 4 gauge, like a store-bought automotive battery cable, not meant to handle hundreds of amps of power. There's also a bus bar in the back. The power running up into the bus bar, which is on the negative side, comes off the battery bank with a 4 gauge wire. He continuously was blowing 400 amp fuses and ended up sticking in a T-fuse slow blow. One of the reasons that he kept blowing the 400 was because both multi-pluses are pulling off of this one battery cable, including being too small of a gauge, but routing 2 multi-pluses, drawing the DC power off of the 4 gauge wire. It's going to blow pretty much every time. So that had to be corrected. All of this wire had to be removed. As you can see in the top there, the installer just mounted the solar charge controllers. He didn't have time to put the solar in before the customer came and took the rig back. There's just so many things going on here. It just all has to be replaced.
first thing we're doing is redoing all the electrical, and then getting the then we'll turn him back, get him back to normal, and then we'll get the batteries moved over here. We got to get some stuff switched out, got to get this wall pulled out and redone. So got some things to do prep wise before we can start on the actual install.
Here I was removing the electrical junction box to put the wiring back to factory, basically, where the power comes into the transfer switch and then goes back out to the junction box. That way, so he could have power on the RV while I was redoing the system. Once I got into the junction box, I took out the neutral junction, which was done by the original installer. This is important that you not do the installation like this, because if you're running the AC and you have a motor, it can allow the power from the AC side to go other places. And basically, if you were standing in wet ground and stuck your fingers into where if you didn't have the power cord in place, you could get shocked. So it's very dangerous to wire it like this. You have to do the flow of power the way that it's designed, come out of shore power through the junction boxes without combining the neutrals. The power has to flow, not go to a single junction point and then go out to all the pieces. So it's just dangerous to do it that way. Once I started removing all the wiring from the Multiplus, I came across a power wire that went directly from the battery terminals inside the Multiplus over in towards the cab of the RV. It was the power for the, what's it called?
Color GX.
Color Control GX. There's no fuses. It wasn't fused at all, coming off of the main power supply at the Multiplus. So basically, you had a 400 amp slow blow T fuse connected at the battery bank all the way into the Multiplus onto this wire now, which is only I don't know, 14, 12 gauge wire, something like that, into the RV, and then it fused and went into the Color GX. Now that extra 10 feet that it wasn't fused, had that got a nick in the jacket and grounded out at any point, that whole wire is now the fuse. It would have, gotten hot, glowed red, melted the plastic, and basically burned the whole coach down. So if you are tapping onto a battery for any reason, anywhere in the power line, wherever you tap, you put a fuse. Then you go on to whatever you're doing. That's just simple, basic DC power. You never extend the full power of a battery past maybe a foot at the most, just to get to your fuse. It's bad wiring.
Scary wiring. That's what that is.
Yeah. When I took the Multipluses off the wall, they were so heavy on the wall. Yes, they had it braced on the back of the wall with an additional 3/4 inch piece of plywood screwed to the factory panel. That's fine. The Multiplus stayed. But the problem was, because you have 80 something pounds at the top of the wall, and the wall had to be screwed into the rafters or whatever you want, the aluminum flooring, and the top heaviness. I asked him how many trips he had taken it, and he said only a few, maybe 5, 6, something like that. And the bracing that they used to hold those Multipluses to that wall, to the ceiling, was diamond plate aluminum cut into strips, which one of them had already broken. The wall was starting to move. So again, know what you're doing as far as, this is a moving thing. It's not going to sit still. Yes, when you connect it, it might be super sturdy, but when you're rolling down the road with an earthquake, I mean, that's, things are bound to happen. Nothing is completely foolproof, but you got to think about it differently, that, this thing is a moving earthquake, and this is heavy stuff that's on this wall. This wall needs to stay in place. You got to use better bracketing. Bracing, yeah. Bracketing, yeah, it's
all of it.
All of it, yeah. So that's just another thing that I noticed whenever I was taking everything apart. Once I had most of the steps tore out for this rebuild, I used 2x10 yellow pine, and with that it added more strength than was already there. The steps were rock solid, and it gave me a good platform to be able to reinstall all of the structure, and then plenty of room for the electronics. Putting in the battery bank where it was with a different configuration of batteries. First time I've worked with these, it was a little more challenging to make sure that everything was going to fit and to make sure that the batteries weren't going to move. The strapping for the batteries was actually not the way that I put them in place, but I think it all turned out pretty well in the end. It had good aesthetics, and the wire was much shorter than using the normal set of batteries, because the cables, it allowed me to run just a straight line. I think I ended up with less than, I'd say, 7 feet of wiring from the last battery all the way into the multi-plus, which that's really fantastic. Short runs of wire make the power much more stable, less voltage drop. So So I also did not do the solar because the customer has damage to his roof, and they're going to be replacing the entire roof later this month. Once that's done, we're going to cross paths again, and I'll get all the solar wiring and solar panels put in to the RV. On the color controls, he only had one originally, but did not want to reprogram it every time he plugged in from 50 amp shore power to anything else, generator or 30 amp or like driveway surfing. Whenever you have two color controls, I did them separately on an island. Then he still has the ability to do the VRM and look at them individually instead of all together. Yes, it's a little bit more of a pain that way, but in the long run, you don't have to continuously reprogram everything. Everything is just separated. On the mounting of the Color GXs, the original configuration was the Color GX on the left and the 712 on the right, which I moved the 712 down to the bottom of the instrument display area, and ended up there was just enough room to squeeze the second Color GX in right beside the existing one. I think it turned out pretty good.
We got a little flack from our first video. Not much. Actually, most of it was very positive because, not knowing what you're doing when you're doing an install, can really be dangerous. And so, you know, we got a little bit of flack though from some haters, which we, you know, will always happen. But the thing with that is that the reason for these specific videos is to, you know, we do have a lot of DIY followers, but we cater to future clientele. So we want people to see in both scenarios, DIY and future clientele, that this is not how you do it.
It's dangerous.
These are the dangerous things about it. And that is simply all it's about. It's not to shun anybody's work. Although in this scenario, this guy didn't know AC or DC power.
Correct.
So you should at least know that.
Right. Working with high amperage DC it's a different thing. I mean, you can't just go with the factory cabling or what everybody else, what manufacturers have been using. If you look in a Class A and they have a large battery bank of 6 or 8 batteries, do they use the tiny little cables? No, they use great big, you know, 2-aught, 4-aught cabling to interconnect everything, because they understand that you have to allow the current to flow. Current cannot flow on small gauge wire. If you don't know it, don't guess. Know the answer. Having done it over the years, you know, I've made my mistakes, believe me. But you know, if you're not 100% sure, check. Make sure that what you're doing is not going to be a safety hazard, or, you know, even if it just doesn't work right. If it's not a safety hazard, it at least needs to work. So, I mean, and it's not going to work on the wrong gauge wire. And if you can't figure out, if you've done it and you can't figure out why it's not working, go look it up. So, I mean, trying to share a little bit of education and let people know that you know, it's not all of it is easy, and once you learn it, you know it forever. So
thanks for joining us again on another video. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed. And then what do they want to do?
They want to smash the like button, maybe. And then hit that dingy bell ringy thingy so you know when we release new videos.
And be sure, if you want to hit that one, just hit it twice.
Yeah, double click it.
See, I like doing this at nighttime though, because it's better for the video actually. He had mentioned to them and showed them the video of, I forgot their name.
Yeah.
He showed them the video of Getaway Couple.
And then hit that dingy bell ringy thingy so you know whenever we really